Blurring of what is closest. There comes an age when a person inevitably begins to wear glasses. Doctors reassure us that it is not a disease but simply a law of nature. Over time, the lens of the eye gradually hardens, making it difficult to focus on objects that are close by science. Science calls this condition presbyopia. The word sounds complex, almost intimidating, but the reality behind it is simple. The things that are closest to us begin to appear blurred. I have always found the terminology of science fascinating. Sometimes the language of science itself feels like a quiet metaphor for life. Terms such as near-sightedness and far-sightedness sound almost paradoxical. In near-sightedness, a person can see objects nearby but struggles to see things at a distance. In far-sightedness, distant objects appear clear while things close by become blurred. Interestingly, the condition is named after what one can see rather than what one cannot. Science has its own logic, its own order. Yet, accordingly, occasion, scientific language unintentionally mirrors the deeper truths of human life. As people grow older, something curious begins to happen, not just with their eyes, but with their perception of the world. It feels as though life itself develops a kind of presbyopia. Distant things appear clearer, while what lies closest begins to fade into a blur. A person can easily identify the mistakes of the world, but struggles to recognize the mistakes within themselves, their families, or their immediate surroundings. Someone else's child make a mistake and is quickly judged and discussed. But when one's own child acts, the response becomes softer. These things happen. When corruption occurs elsewhere, people deliver passionate speeches about morality. But when wrongdoing happens within their own circle, it suddenly begins to look like a misunderstanding, a worse, a conspiracy against them. When nepotism appears in another group, it becomes a matter of outrage and revolution. Yet, when the same practice occurs within one's own network, among friends, colleagues, or allies, it is politely rebranded as a tradition, loyalty, or organizational culture. From the perspective of biology, the explanation of presbyopia is straightforward. With age, the lens of the eye becomes rigid and the ability to focus on nearby objects diminishes. But observing the world around us, one begins to feel that something similar happens in politics and power as well. There seems to be another kind of lens, an invisible one that slowly hardens over time. Even those who spend their entire life speaking about ideals and principles sometimes find their own principles losing focus right at the doorstep of their homes. The greatest visual defect in politics, perhaps, is precisely this, the ability to see everything far away while failing to see what stands immediately before us. People are remarkably well informed about what is happening in distant nations. There, they analyze global crises, international conflicts, and foreign policies with great clarity and confidence. Yet, Very few pause to look closely at what is happening in their own households, institutions, or communities. Distant enemies are easy to identify. They appear sharp, threatening, and unmistakable. But the ones standing nearby often go unnoticed. What is even more intriguing is that people rarely realize that this defect in vision has developed within them, much like individuals who resist wearing glasses for the first time. Many are unwilling to admit that their eyesight has weakened. They continue insisting that their vision is perfectly fine until the moment comes when the words on the page simply refuse to come into focus. History gives us an interesting character to reflect upon: Dhritarashtra, the blind king from the ancient epic Mahabharata. Though generations of storytelling, we have often heard that Dhritarashtra was unjust, blinded by his love for his son, and responsible for allowing injustice to flourish. But consider this for a moment: Dhritarashtra was born blind. The divine had not granted him the power of sight. What he failed to see was not always a matter of choice, it was a limitation imposed upon him from birth. Today, however, we encounter a far more puzzling situation. There are people who possess eyes, glasses, advisors, data, and reports, yet they still fail to see the mistakes within their own circles. What should we say about such blindness? Dhritarashtra, at the very least, was honest in his blindness. His inability to see was a condition he never denied. But in our time, many people live comfortably with a different kind of blindness. The convenient belief that the things closest to them are simply too blurred to judge. And that is perhaps more troubling. Science tells us that when nearby objects begin to blur, we should simply wear glasses. A pair of lenses can restore clarity and allow us to read, work, and observe the world with renewed precision. Sometimes one wishes that politics and perhaps life itself had a similar remedy. If one if only there existed a pair of glasses that could help people clearly see the truth standing right at their own doorstep. If only. Because when we ignore what lies nearest to us, when we sacrifice integrity for convenience, loyalty, or small personal interest, we slowly erode something far more valuable than power. We erode trust, we erode fairness, and eventually we erode the very ground beneath our feet. There is an old saying that captures this beautifully. The soil says to the potter, "Why do you trample upon me? A day will come when I shall trample upon you." It is a quiet reminder that perspective matters, and sometimes the clearest vision is not about seeing farther, but about learning to see what has always been closest to us.